Joining me in the studio from the Thousand Islands Watershed Land Trust, I'm talking with Executive Director Calder Schweitzer, who is a biologist. Calder, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Doreen.
So please tell our viewers, what is the Thousand Islands Watershed Land Trust?
The Thousand Islands Watershed Land Trust is a non-governmental charity organization that's based on protecting ecologically sensitive land in the watershed of the Thousand Islands. We are almost completely funded by either grants or by, in the vast majority, by donations from the community, and rely on a lot of community support to get that work done.
So why is it so important to protect this land and the species that are there?
This area is just incredibly ecologically significant, which honestly blew my mind. As I went to the University of Guelph, took wildlife biology, and still had never heard of just how incredible this place is. This is especially the Thousand Islands and the areas just north of it are one of, if not the most important north-south migration route in North America. They provide, if you think about the geography of sort of southern Ontario and New York State, where they meet along the river,
yes.
You've got Adirondack Park in New York and Algonquin Park, and a lot of development between them. And there becomes necessary a movement corridor for species to go from Adirondack Park to Algonquin Park and beyond, right, in their respective areas.
Yes.
And this is one of the only places where they can actually make the crossing safely. You know, west of here, there's all of the development in southwestern Ontario, as well as the Great Lakes, which are a massive barrier to movement, as I'm sure you can imagine.
Yes.
East of here, it's the same story. The St. Lawrence widens. There's a lot of development as well. The presence of the islands themselves actually allow not only animals but plants over much longer time periods to sort of hop skip across the river, use it as stepping stones, and make that crossing, which facilitates north-south seasonal migration, as well as broader range shifts with climate change that take place over longer periods of time.
I've never thought of that before, but now that you've explained it, it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it's really intuitive, like even looking at a map thinking, yeah, that it really does, it does make sense. But yeah, I had never learned about it, never heard of it until I actually worked here in an environmental capacity.
Yes.
And it really is, I think it's a story that, you know, we should be telling everybody around here because it's a truly remarkable place.
Alrighty. So are we losing our wetlands?
We are. Long story short, yeah, we're definitely losing wetlands. I don't know any of the figures around it.
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, you can see it happening as you drive around, fill in a wetland and build a cottage on it, or build a condominium or anything like that. Yeah. So it is a big deal, and it's a big problem because wetlands, when it comes to providing ecological services, ecosystem services are called.
Yes.
Wetlands are one of the biggest contributors. Mm-hmm. So the loss of them is one that we really feel, not only visually and aesthetically, but also financially when it comes to property value and the increased instances of high and low water in the St. Lawrence, which is a big topic, and other things like that. A lot of that is controlled, at least in part, by wetlands, and the loss of them is one that we feel quite heavily. So
the land trust was started, I think, back in, was it 2015? I think around there, 2015, 2016, they started the land trust?
It's, yeah, sort of. In 1993, actually, the first iteration of the land trust was started as the Canadian Thousand Islands Heritage Conservancy, which was it was focused on ecological value, but also heavily on preserving the cultural value of the area and the history around here. Around the time you're thinking is when we sort of switched the name to Thousand Islands Watershed Land Trust and focused almost, I say almost because recently we've got a little bit of cultural history on some properties, but we focus now almost exclusively on ecological value.
So the property that is in the land trust, there's islands, right?
Yes.
But there's also an area within, I think it's Gananoque, Athens, Brockville, somewhere within there, there's actually quite a bit of land that is in the trust.
Yeah, we have, honestly, we have land scattered kind of all throughout the watershed. Our working area is in that sort of triangle you're talking about, where
Yes.
to the west, we're mostly bound by Gananoque, and then Brockville is near our eastern boundary. And then we kind of follow the Rideau Canal to the north and work within that triangle.
Okay.
We've got a lot of property right now that we've acquired in recent years in the Leaders Creek area.
Okay.
The Leaders Creek wetland complex is this massive network of wetlands up in that area that, as I was mentioning earlier, has immense value when it comes to ecosystem services of all kinds. So that's one that we've been sort of an area that we've been focusing on and trying to conserve more of. That's probably one of our most strongest like nexuses of conservation properties, but we've got properties everywhere from just east of Athens to west of Gananoque and islands all the way
Scattered all over.
Yeah, exactly.
So now there is a property that was actually donated to the land trust, and there's a building that is on that particular land that you people now are working on. You're actually refurbishing it or renovating it or whatever. And that land eventually will become a resource center. Am I correct?
Yeah, we have some very big plans for the property. It's a beautiful, that's the one I mentioned that's east of Athens.
Yes.
It was donated in 2019 by a very generous woman named Jane Topping, shortly before she passed away. And we are currently working on developing it into a resource education center for the community to come enjoy nature, enjoy the history on the property, and learn as much as they can. And the property itself is incredibly remarkable. It has an 1838 house on it, as you mentioned, as well as an old road that goes back to the ruin of two mills.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's still on the property.
That's exciting.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see the old foundations and the sluiceways. You can kind of work out where things might have been when it was all standing.
Yeah.
And the sort of one of the cherry on top of that is we have the waterfall that the mill used to run off of as well. Yeah, which is just fantastic. So we take groups back to hike there and explore sort of not only the history, not only the ecology, but also how the two intersect and why it looks like what it does now. Among the developments we're making on the property, we are refurbishing the house, as you said. We're hoping to turn it into an Airbnb, actually.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. We're hoping to kind of make it a conservation destination for folks to come, get away, enjoy sort of the country living. Exactly.
And learn.
Yeah. And I think it'd just be a fantastic place to spend a weekend.
So my understanding with this land trust is that homeowners, landowners, can actually donate, like Ms. Topping did, and or they can sell the property to the land trust. Is that correct?
That's true. That's correct. Yeah, there are actually three major mechanisms that we protect land through. Donation and sale are two of them.
Yes.
The third one is what's called a conservation easement, which is essentially where the landowner retains ownership of the property, but they donate essentially through a conservation agreement, a legal agreement that goes on title.
Yes.
They donate the development rights, and we as TWILT become the stewards of that agreement. And then that agreement follows the title of the land. So no matter who the next owner is, the land will still be conserved.
That's really a neat idea.
Yeah,
I like that.
As far as the whole process is sort of underpinned by a program called the Ecological Gifts Program that's delivered by the federal government. And as far as government programs go, it's probably the best value, the most one of the most generous ones.
Yes. Now, you were talking earlier about some events that are going to be taking place for the public, and you have something that's coming up October 24th at the farm. Ms. Topping Farm, and it's from 5 until 7. Can you tell us what that is?
Yeah, we are hoping to do a sort of a walk along the property at dusk, nice and spooky, kind of Halloween feel.
Yeah.
And we want to give people an opportunity to learn about the animals that are typically seen as creepy crawlies, you know, spiders, snakes, bats, all that stuff. Yeah, the ones that are hard to drum up a lot of conservation concern for in a typical crowd. We're hoping to give people a little bit of a lesson on the ecology of those species, why it's actually really, really important that we keep them around.
Right.
And because they're so closely associated with being spooky, we've turned it into a Halloween event, and we think we'll be doing some. Once that's finished, we'll be coming back to the property. We'll have a bit of a fire and be telling some local ghost stories as well.
Local ghost stories. I always like those. What's taking place on November the 14th from 2 until 4?
That's our Glen Elb History Mystery Walk. The history of that property with the mills and the hamlet is very, very complicated. We've got almost a team of historians that have been looking through it and looking at it the past couple of years.
Yes.
And we want to share essentially our current findings with the community so they can understand how this property fits into the landscape at large in the history of the area.
And of course, December 5th, we're looking at Christmas, aren't we? 2 to 4 in the afternoon at the farm. And what is this going to be about?
We're hoping this is going to be a really fun one for the kids. And the flagship of that event is going to be a gingerbread cookie decorating.
Gingerbread.
With a bit of a conservation twist. We'll be making some cookie cutters in the shape of endangered species, providing the icing to make decorate them as such, and then having a little bit of a lesson on those species in the process.
Very quickly, tell our viewers, membership. There is a membership for $10 for an individual. Is that correct?
$10 for a young adult.
Oh, young adult. Sorry, go ahead. 45 for?
45 for families, large or small.
And 100?
100 for the supporter tier.
Okay, so please do consider the land trust. These people are volunteers, and they're working very, very hard to preserve our uniqueness in our land. So please do consider donating.